Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. Today's guest is Jody Scott. She has an MS in health psychology, and she's the founder of Green Goo. And she's going to tell us all about what that is. And so, welcome to the show, Jody.
Thank you for having me. It's a delight to be here with you.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about yourself and your company, because I know, this sounds fascinating to me. Green Goo. I want to learn all about it.
It's really special stuff. So, my sister is an herbalist and a midwife, and then I was pre-med, got my master's in health psychology, and was very focused on psychoneuroimmunology, which is very much mind, body, energetic medicine in sort of the Western medicine terminology. And I wanted to change medicine. I didn't want to just look at here's the patient, here's the prescription, see you later. So I would actually train resident physicians on the biopsychosocial model and be like, let's meet the person where they're at. And let's think about what their community looks like, what their culture looks like, what their habits look like. And let's try to have a more holistic, integrative approach to their intervention rather than just the prescription. And so I think that really started the undercurrent along with my sister's Eastern medicine education and so forth and herbalism. And so one day she was training, making different kinds of tinctures and salves and supplements with plants, whole plants. And she made these beautiful salves, and we were really healthy lifestyle living individuals. We had organic food and clean personal care products. But if you opened up our first aid cabinet, like full stop, all the chemicals were there, and no sustainability. And so when she started making these salves, I found it very interesting that perhaps we could find wound care and first aid OTC alternatives. So we started using them ourselves, loved them. And then we started selling them at the farmer's market. And really the farmer's market was more because who doesn't love going to the farmer's market? Let's go and do some bartering and bring our salves out there and see if other people are enjoying them the same way we are. And what we found one day is we had the longest line, and families were coming up to us and telling us how our products had changed their lives. A mom was saying that their son who had eczema, who was embarrassed to go to school, is now able to go to school and have confidence. People who had suffered different kinds of long-term physical conditions could now use our pain relief and go out and enjoy the outdoors that they had not been able to enjoy. And so I started looking at the first aid space more specifically, and I found that we weren't alone. The natural consumer was willing to abandon their natural ethos because they were told these chemical-laden products like Neosporin and hydrocortisone were the only products that could get the job done. And then conventional consumer was like, I don't care what the ingredients are. I just want something that works better. And I find that I have a chronic skin condition. Everything available over the counters, use 7 to 10 days and discontinue using, or you will have very negative side effects and go see your physician. So we thought, could we make plant-based first aid products that are superior in efficacy and also clean ingredients and sustainable? And so Green Goo was born.
Okay, so what is Green Goo, and is it a group of products? Is it one product for a bunch of different things?
So Green Goo is the brand for a number of different products. It started out as one product, and then it turned into a whole bunch of different first aid products. So for example, we have our first aid formula, and it is a natural Neosporin alternative. But in addition to cuts and scrapes, it is also bug bites, bee stings, poison ivy, chafing, ingrown toenails, sunburns. It is your first aid kit in one little tin. So it's portable and it's versatile. And then we have a hydrocortisone alternative, which is our dry skin formula. And this is a product that Johns Hopkins has been using in their scleroderma and skin condition department for over 10 years. And, this one really allowed Green Goo as a brand to scale because we make most of these ingredients ourselves. We take the whole plants the same way we were making them when we first started. So we would grow the herbs in our backyard, take them through this beautiful We dry them on old kitchen racks and then take the plants through the extraction process, yield high amounts of the medicinal properties, and then put the plant oils into these products. Well, we had to scale it, and no manufacturer would do that. And we were not going to compromise the integrity of these plants. And we'll talk more about it, but the entourage and the energetic components of these plants are just as important to us as the physical compounds. And so that's why we believe and stand by that these products work. And so I found a manufacturer whose son had eczema, and he used our dry skin formula. And he said, you know what? I don't know how we're going to scale this, but we're going to find a way because the world needs these products. And we were able to protect that process to this date.
That's awesome. So this is what I've been saying, and many of the other episodes, and the guests have been saying that plant-based medicine is the original medicine, and there's a plant and an antidote for everything that we are suffering from.
It is so true. And I think a lot of times people think that, this plant-based renaissance is just a trend. And really, we're just bringing the herbal wisdom, the true innovators to what modern medicine is today, and just bringing it forward. So our mission is spread goodness, and our vision is bringing time-honored traditions and bringing them forward.
Yeah, and I wish I could talk to my grandmother or great-grandmothers and ask them these type of questions, because I'm sure they knew a lot and it wasn't really passed down, or maybe we didn't ask them. It didn't happen. But I remember my sister telling a story about her son when he was young, and he got stung by a bee or something, and so he was crying and screaming and inconsolable, and my aunt and mom were with her too. And she left to get something in the car, and she came back and her son wasn't crying anymore. And she said, well, what did you do? What happened? And my aunt had done something, but she didn't want to say what it was. So she finally pushed her to say what it was. And she used urine on the sting, and it worked.
Yep. It's amazing.
Like, wow. Who cares? If it works, it works, right?
If it works, it works. And I feel like that's something we started Green Goo almost 2 decades ago. And I'll never forget going to a national pharmacy buyer and saying, I've got a plant-based first aid product. And he about fell off of his seat. And I feel like today, for the first time, people are listening more, and there's more information that's available. And I bet if we were to go and look that up today, why urine would help for a bee sting or a wasp sting, it would make perfect sense. And I think, like you said, that storytelling of passing this information forward, we've lost generations of it. Now, I'm really glad that the people are starting to demand cleaner ingredients, and they're seeing that it's bad for the environment. It's bad for them. I mean, phthalates are the #1 produced chemical in the world. The US produces 1 billion pounds of them just per year. And they're endocrine disruptors. And what we are doing from a vibration and health standpoint by inviting this into our world is not only an energy block, but it's the side effect to that is what we're seeing in terms of these systemic mental and physical health ailments. And so what I love about Green Goo is just protecting the plant properties and the entourage effect, because a lot of times what we see out in the market, even in the natural industry, is it's an extract. It's a piece of the plant, but it's not the whole plant. And then it's not the whole plant with another whole plant. And when you have that entourage effect of all of these plants as they were intended to be used, combined with other plants, it just elevates its productivity and its energetic capabilities. And so a perfect example is yarrow and plantain. Yarrow by itself is known to it slows down the bleeding. And plantain by itself is known for cleaning a wound, or cleaning and detoxing the body. But when you combine those two together, yarrow and plantain, which are in our first aid, They are known as the healers in the energetic world together. And they cool and calm so that it slows down the bleeding, speeds up the healing, increases oxygen to the wound site, and then takes the sting and the itch out as a component of that healing process. So that just helps the human experience. So it's really fun to see more people open to bringing this into their world and then just seeing the changes in their life. I have people who will put green goo on. I love to use this term butter up or salve up and put it on your body. Take a shower and then you butter up, put the salve on from head to toe, put your bathrobe on, go read a book, sit on your back porch, get work, do your laundry, whatever you want to do during that time. But you just let your skin drink it up. And not only, yes, great, if you're suffering for eczema or dry skin or you're looking for anti-aging or pain relief, you get all of that. But there's something else that happens. People will call us and say, I just feel different. I feel better. And that's the energy and the plant compounds coming in systemically through your largest organ that is not there just to protect your body. It has all these neuroreceptors that's responding to all the chaos and the bananas around us.
We were laughing like before we pressed record about how things are bananas, and she was showing me her book that has bananas all over it.
So I can bring humor into the chaos and really ground myself. And so, yeah.
So your sister, she came up with these recipes on her own, just based on her herbal, wisdom and knowledge.
She did. And what was really neat is her mentor was a second generation herbalist who had been making these salves for, decades and decades. And so back to that storytelling and how we don't have that information being passed on, my sister had the opportunity to get that information from her while she was going to herb school. So it's just next level application for her herbalism. And then me being pre-med, being able to bring organic chemistry and some of these more technical terms that we needed to be able to take our products to a manufacturer, shelf stable, and actually bring them out to the world was just this beautiful combination.
Yeah. So share some more stories about what the products have done for people, and the more miraculous, the better. Because we all want to be inspired and hear that there are these issues can be resolved naturally.
Absolutely. Oh, I have so many favorites. I'll share one who this customer has become a dear friend. She was Jane Doe number 1, pulled from the World Trade Center, and she sustained just horrible, horrible injuries and ultimately became addicted to opioids. And she reached out to us, and our product was the only product that was helping her through the opioid withdrawal. So every time they would lower the dose, she would go into like seizure-like muscle cramps. And so she would put our pain relief product all over and just let her body kind of calm as she moved through the change in the dosage. And so she asked if she could buy it in larger volumes. And thank goodness our customer service brought it to my attention. So we were able to do that. And eventually she became opioid free and a dear friend as a customer. And that was really special. I had never thought that could be a use for the product. So that's probably one of my favorites as it relates to the pain relief. Now we've got NFL players who are using that same exact product. Shaq Thompson for his, muscle recovery post workouts. And it's I have a bunch of pickleball followers now because pickleball is like the fastest growing sport in the world. And they're loving using the green goo pain relief after a good pickleball workout. And then, the next day getting back into the court. I think the eczema stories, those are endless and so appreciated because people are suffering from chronic skin conditions for a variety of reasons. And it's really interesting to see some of the behavioral science coming out on the mind-body connection related to eczema and psoriasis. And we're undergoing so much stress in this world and taking in all this information. And so our dry skin formula has this beautiful combination of botanicals. My two favorite in there are the elderflower and the calendula. And these are both known as like nature's healers. And, the elderflower has the antiseptic properties, but it also helps stimulate the immune system. And then calendula is like an antiseptic, antimicrobial, anti-yeast, but it works with your lymphatic system. And so energetically, these two are known as kind of restore and calm. And they're kind of the yin and yang of plants. And they work so beautifully. And you can see why you get the effects that you do for someone who's suffering from chronic eczema and that chronic dry skin, how those two can work so beautifully together. I have people in the military who take the products with them on deployments because you can't, most of these things like cuts and scrapes and ingrown toenails and chafing, they're just inconvenient. And especially if you're deployed and you're in the heat and you're wearing all of these fatigues. So they'll share with us that they can just pop that tin, somewhere in the pocket of their uniform, and they can take it with them, and just life is better. I will say a funny one though. I had a Marine come back and he said, "Ma'am, green goo saved my life." And I was like, okay, I'm waiting for the story. I'm thinking like he's going to tell me, I've heard lots of them, like gashes where you have to go get 18 stitches when you get home, but you put the goo in. And he's like, so I was out in the field and, it was a pretty precarious situation. And he's like, and my O-rings got jammed in my gun. And I was like, oh gosh, where are we going with this? And he's like, I had seconds to get out of that. He's like, what do I do? What do I do? And he's like, green goo. And he busted out his green goo and put it in his O-ring. And he's like, ma'am, I got out of there and it literally saved my life. And I was like, that needs to be like a commercial. But you start to kind of prescribe when you have green goo, where you always have it on you. And then you see someone who gets hurt and you're like, oh, you need the goo. Here, I got the goo for you. It becomes like this thing where you can like help your community, help your friend who's just suffering from a sting or an itch or a cut or pain or what have you, and just makes life a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that mosquitoes love. So, and then when they bite me, I have this big red swollen welt, and I haven't found anything that helps with the itch. So
that's what you need the goo for. We'll get you some goo, Tina. Especially,
I've tried lavender, and lavender didn't do anything. I feel like it made it worse. It made it itchier.
Yeah,
So,
you need the combination of in our first aid. There's chickweed, yarrow, plantain, calendula. There's 13 herbs in it, and one of the best ones, to your point, is just like taking the itch out. It's not gonna ruin your life, but it's sure gonna make your day uncomfortable. And like kids can use it. So like, when they get a cut or a scrape and it stings and they're crying and you do the Band-Aid ritual. Well, the Band-Aid doesn't do anything. You're just buying time because the kiddo doesn't know that this sting is going to go away in just a minute or in just a few seconds. Well, then you can, and you're not going to give them a tube of like Neosporin or something. So you can give them the goo and it actually will take the sting and the itch out and slow down the bleeding. You don't need the Band-Aid, and then you're off doing their own thing. And they love the autonomy of being able to put it on themselves. I have pictures of my daughter like from different stages and ages where I just handed her the tin and she's got the goo on her face and, all over the place.
Yeah, I actually, the only time I've ever gotten stitches was on the back of my foot. And I was putting Neosporin on it and it wasn't healing. And actually, this is the first time I received Reiki because the foot had not been healing. And my massage therapist was like, well, you want to try Reiki on it? Which she did, but then I realized I was allergic to Neosporin. It was puffing up every time I put it on my skin. And so when I realized that, I stopped using it and it healed faster.
25% of the population is allergic to neomycin, which is the active ingredient in Neosporin. So you're one of the 25 percenters.
Yeah, I just couldn't figure out why it wasn't healing. I was taking good care of it, keeping it bandaged, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to stop using this. And then I got to experience my first Reiki, so that was good too.
That was the gift in all of it. You were meant to find that.
Yeah.
But then to your point too, someone who, okay, there's the people who are allergic to the ingredient in neomycin, but then there's also the parabens and the petroleum and all of these other endocrine disruptors, forever chemicals that are in that. And you think about the work you're doing with Reiki, and then the chemicals we're bringing in and the products that counteracts these wonderful healing methodologies. And what you want is something that's going to energetically compound and complement these things that are going to make your life healthier and happier and generations to come, because that's an energy force that you're putting out into the universe that then ripples into everything that we do.
Yeah, this is definitely where we need to go. This is definitely what we need. And that's why I do the podcast, because I'm learning a ton. I actually know too much now, and I'm warning friends and family now. But like, you also want solutions. You want options. Natural options that don't have a million side effects, and who
So
knows what type of ingredients.
And I think changing the narrative too, that natural doesn't have to be a compromise. A lot of times people think, well, my symptoms are so bad, there's no way something natural will work. And that's kind of been the narrative that we've been told. And instead, really getting the opportunity that plants might, in fact, depending on their process, depending on what herbs they are, can actually work better. And sometimes, yes, Western medicine needs to be there to complement. Most of the time, these plants don't contraindicate with anything, so you can complement it. But even a physician will say, I would much rather work on a healthy patient than someone who has had a lifetime of degrading their wellness. And so, in these opportunities, when you can find something that is enough, do that first. And you'd be surprised. It can absolutely exceed your expectations.
And with holistic healing, you have to try different things. Like, you can't just try one thing and it didn't work. Well, I give up, or this is not going to work for me. The whole point is everybody's very individual, and what works for Jody may not work for me, but it might work. But you have to try it.
And more than once.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important part of, like, your wellness journey is just not flipping a switch. Your wellness journey is a culmination of behaviors and engagements and interactions and what you intake, what you get rid of, that helps us live to our full wellness, spiritual, physical potential. And so what's great is when you start on that journey, you start to feel a little bit of it, and then you'll feel a little bit more of it, and just keep going because there's more.
Mm-hmm.
And, our products probably go against capitalism. And I say this all the time, because the more you use our product, the less you need it. So in the initial days, yes, you want to like really use frequently, consistently. And the reason is you're counteracting something that's not happy, right? And you're getting your body back to balance, restoration. But once it gets back to restoration, you don't need as much. And so you can start using less and less. And you don't want to discontinue, because you want to keep adding to that restoration. But now your cells are happy. They're full of the nutrients that they're hungry for. They're full of the hydration and the things that give it the harmony that it needs to be able to serve you, in this time.
So you mentioned there's a mind-body connection with the eczema and the psoriasis. So besides stress, which can trigger it, what else can trigger those rashes?
Well, it's interesting. They haven't been able to find out, which behaviors are contributing to, at least more recent studies, what's contributing to the eczema. But what they have been able to prove is that with very specific mindful activities, and there's a camp of those mindful activities. So in this particular study, they use things like gratitude, meditation, presence exercises, and they saw the immune system respond and increase the cellular activity that's necessary to reduce the inflammation of eczema, and then saw consistent and visible improvement just by practicing mindfulness. And so I love the shamanic work that you're doing, because we use an analogy over here called shaman. And that analogy for us is kind of like our North Star. So my daughter, who's 14, I'm constantly returning to this acronym for her so that she can have that a part of her wellness journey when she's constantly being exposed and stimulated by things. So S is for sleep. And we'll say adding to the sleep bank. I told her this morning, it's Friday. I am very glad that we're adding to the sleep bank, because this week we pulled from it. It's time to add a little bit more there so that we have some reserves. H is hydration. Hydration does not necessarily need to be coming from just the water that you drink, but it's the foods that you eat. It's the products that you put on your body. There's products that you put on your body, they pull the hydration out. There's drinks besides water. I mean, there's other drinks that are good for you, but then think about what not to have, right? Like, is this going to hydrate me? Is this fruit going to be the better choice, or is this potato chip going to be the better choice? Because one has more hydration, and just thinking it from that perspective. And then A is antioxidants, and thinking about, the different kinds of nutrition that you can bring into your diet and into your body care. So I'm like to my daughter, hey, when someone puts options in front of you, you think about how it's going to serve you. And then M is mindfulness. So you're always thinking about, not always, but I think mindfulness is back to that eczema component. We are constantly depleting ourselves from a spiritual present standpoint. It's always, in the future, thinking in the future. There's something to be said about just getting present throughout the day. And a lot of people think, well, if I don't meditate, I can't meditate for 2 hours. I don't have the ability. I don't have the time. And the science shows you don't need to meditate for 2 hours. You can take 30 seconds a number of times throughout the day, and that works just the same. So taking 30 seconds to just feel your feet on the ground, take some deep breaths, rub your fingertips together, look at the horizon, have just gratitude, name 10 things that you're grateful for. And that mindfulness can go so far. And then the next A is just avoid the things that don't serve you. And that can mean even people, activities, because I think we're always thinking about, sometimes in the wellness journey, you don't kind of flip the coin a little bit and just be like, well, maybe I just need to avoid that. That behavior is not helping me, and then N goes back to nutrition and just thinking about nutrition and so forth. And so we use that acronym a lot just to help us stay the course and find ways that we can serve ourselves and our community.
So is she actually listening and following your advice? Because I have a 14-year-old too, and she's not listening very well.
Small bites. I mean, the other day, she's getting ready to go into her math test that she was doing, and she was super frustrated and overwhelmed. And I saw her taking a couple deep breaths and rubbing her fingertips together. And I was like, don't make a big deal about it. She's doing it. And then, and making sure that her water bottle was full, and little things where she'll share with me what she ate because she's excited to celebrate it with me. And so I try not to, especially being in this business, she has plenty of beauty care products that I'm like, honey, I don't approve. We both know that, right? You're going to do what you're going to do, but I'm here to educate and to inform. And I see little windows.
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, even myself, I've gone away from a lot of the products and even makeup. I mean, I hardly wear makeup anymore, and I just feel like if I wore makeup, I'm just adding to the load, the toxic load of my body. And so, I the only moisturizer I use is aloe vera.
Aloe vera is the best. Our number one selling product, Repair, has aloe in it, and then has rose hip oil and blue yarrow. It's so lovely. And it was originally designed to be an after burn and scar alternative that's in the OTC space. But what we found is it was so hydrating that it became known in the industry as the anti-aging formula. And what's so great is like it's so low maintenance. People will be like, what do you do to your skin? I'm like, Green Goo Repair, that's it. Nothing else.
Mhm.
Just put the salve on and it like hydrates. It's got all the medicinal properties it needs. The rose hip is a vitamin high in vitamin C. It's a collagen booster and it really restores the skin from underneath. And then the blue yarrow is cooling and then it is a protective barrier. So it calms from the or it protects from the outside. And so they work really well when you think about the skin. And it's so interesting how uh, we look at like skin health as longevity, and then there's this whole industry trying to sell us on stuff that actually doesn't do that. It does the opposite.
Yeah, that's the world we live in. Like they say it does one thing and it does the actual opposite. So yeah, I decided to just, aloe vera is good for me. And I use mineral makeup and when I do wear makeup, and I'm always looking for anti-aging stuff because I'm starting to get fine lines and I don't want those to get worse. So I'm going on your website and ordering right
I'll,
after this.
I'll get you some goo. Not a problem. I'll get you some goo. And then what I love is just simple. And back to like part of our thesis was to reduce the clutter, reduce the waste, have more simplicity, not only in the environment, but in our lives. And so it's wonderful. Like when I go on a trip, I just have a handful of things because, the Green Goo products can cover so much, so much. And then you have more than you need from a symptom relief standpoint. And then again, that wellness journey, like before I travel, I'll put the pain relief on from shoulders down the night before. And that idea is because when we travel, we get inflammation. And then inflammation is typically connected to not sleeping well, stress, any kind of thing that you might be sensitive to, exposed to, even anxiety. And so when you manage your inflammation, that connection with your mind, I go into my meetings with more clarity, with more confidence, with more strength. And then I sleep better when I'm traveling. And so those little things can just serve you and make life better.
Well, sounds amazing. And I wish I had had that on my long flight to Turkey last year. You can sleep well when you're sitting up also.
No, not at all. That's a
Yeah.
long flight.
Yeah, it was 10 hours. And the great thing is, as a Reiki practitioner, I have my own playlist that I use just for Reiki. And I ended up listening to that when I was trying to sleep. And I actually slept well.
Nice.
And I woke up and it must have been an hour and a half. And I was shocked. And I was like, oh my God, I slept so good.
And
And
it's
I
probably
ended up,
good sleep too, like good quality sleep for that short time in such a challenging
yes.
space.
And then I was traveling with the other three other women. You're traveling, it is already stressful. You're sleeping in different places, strange places, and you're trying to catch naps too while you're traveling. And so I told them about my playlist and they were like, well, share it with us. So all of them ended up using it
I
during the
love that.
trip to try to sleep, at least nap on some of these trip, places we were going to.
That's beautiful and so intentional and bringing in like the auditory experience and we know this, there's the music industry is a huge industry for a reason. And being able to have a medicinal component through sound. Have you
Yeah,
ever done a sound bath?
I really think like with my Reiki sessions, 50% of the relaxation comes from the music that I use.
Mm.
It's so simple too. Everybody has access to this type of music. I'm on Spotify, so I have a ton of music that I can access. And all you have to do is just put your little headphones on and listen for 5 or 10 minutes and intentionally clear your mind while you're listening.
And that's a presence exercise right there. Okay,
Yep.
share with me. So how do you find good, or not even good, how do you find Reiki music on Spotify? Do you just use that as a search term?
Yeah, I used to use Yellow Brick Cinema. They produce a lot of kind of meditation, relaxation music, and I really like that. I'm very picky about sound. I'm one of these people who's very sensitive to sound, so I need something that's good for the background, but not distracting, not a lot of piano or flute. I find that can be kind of jarring during a Reiki session. So I find a lot of like hertz music, like different hertz, like 432 hertz. I've searched for chakra music is a good way if you're working with certain chakras. And like, say I know a client that has a lot of like leg issues or hip issues would be the root chakra. So then I would search for root chakra music and I would try to play that during our sessions together. So it's just a combination of finding what you like. And I don't listen to every single song in my playlist, but if there's something that comes up that I don't particularly like, I'll go to the next one or I'll take it off my list. So I'm very, very particular.
I so appreciate the intentionality around it too. Like here you have this client and you're bringing the music in very specific to the chakra that you're working on. I mean, for me, that just like resonates like holistic, integrative, the same way we treat our plants and the products. And instead of just looking at it from this like linear perspective, because we are these whole beings with, and so to bring that in, that's beautiful. I
And
really.
one of my little hacks is I can tell when people are very focused on mental chatter. Even when I'm working on you Reiki, I can tell
Mhm.
that the focus is up there. And so, in order to get people to relax and clear their mind, I said one of the things you can do is focus on the music and then focus on how your body is feeling throughout the session. And don't think about anything. Try not to think about anything, but if you do, just let the thought come in and then let it go. And then reshift your focus to the music and to how you're feeling.
It's beautiful. That's a presence exercise right there.
So
Absolutely
I'm
love that.
always constantly doing this with myself and my clients. So because I can tell when they're distracted, I can feel it and I want them to get the most out of the session. So for me to give them my best, I have to be clear and grounded. And for them to receive that at the best level, they need to be clear and grounded.
And really, we have that power within us, and we don't. I mean, I only in the last 5 years discovered that exercise, and then the power of being able to do that frequently. And then when I'm in a stressful situation, being able to deploy that same practice only because I continue to practice it outside of that setting. And so I love how you're like, not only if you can't let the thought go away, bring it in, discard it, see how it feels in your body. And you're bringing that acknowledgement to that human experience of that frontal cortex that just won't stop, and then getting back into your body. And like, the more you do that, you'll find that if you're in a really tough situation, you can take that same practice and calm yourself and get clarity. And I had to learn that in business because, short version of the story is, I mean, building a business is really hard and you deal with a lot of trauma and it's always in fight or flight. And I was like, I'm done
Yeah,
being
it's a
in fight or
roller
flight.
coaster ride. It really
Right.
is.
And I wish I had learned these skills earlier, because what happens in that place where you can feel that the body calming down and feeling how those different thoughts feel in your body. With that comes clarity. And then you know how to make the next decision. And it removes errors, impulsivity, reactions, and you thrive business-wise better, but then also just like your personal life. Like you're not as reactive to your partner. You're not as reactive to your child. You know?
And you can even pause and say, do I really want to get into this? You know, like, do I really want to get involved in this? Is this really worth my time and energy?
Exactly.
And most of the time you're going to walk away
Mm-hmm.
because it's not worth it.
And you just have a better day. You're like, that was good because that was an avoid. That was this did not serve me. And I'm going to go ahead and like let that thing move on its way.
And the other thing about thoughts coming in, like I have a very shamanic view of things, even when I'm meditating or practicing mindfulness. And if I hear a noise, you're not going to shut out noise, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the noise. So if I'm working on you, Jody, and I hear a dog barking, I refocus and go, okay, what body part am I focusing on right now? What was I thinking about, or what was I feeling at that point when the dog? So I'm taking it as extra information that's intentional.
Ooh, I like
in
that.
the moment.
It's there to serve you because
Mhm.
everything is there to serve you, so long as you want it, right?
You
And
know
it's
how
like,
many times the garbage was getting picked up when a client of mine, I'm working on a client, and it makes me laugh every time because literally we're clearing out the energy
I
body.
love that. Yep.
So the garbage truck is actually part of the experience.
There you go. That's great. Well, and then I think when you start thinking about things that are annoying you or challenging you, when you can have curiosity and then you can innovate and navigate and really fine tune that practice, the world becomes just so much more magical. And your
It
body
is
responds to
magical.
it. Your body
Yeah.
is happier as a
You
result.
ever had a conversation with someone, and I do this because I'm always kind of paying attention to what's happening, but say we're talking and there's a thunderstorm, and then I say a certain thing, or you said something and then there's thunder. Well, that's like an exclamation point from the universe. So you need to stop and pause and say, well, what were we just talking about? Or I always make a joke like, see, the universe agrees.
Yep. You got yourself a thumbs up.
Exactly.
Yep. I love that.
So Jody, tell us where we can get the green goo, what's your website, and how can people contact you if they have any questions?
Yeah, best way is just greengoo.com. You can go straight to our website. Of course, we have everything on Amazon. It's available there too. You can email me directly from the website. You can go to my LinkedIn at Jody A. Scott on LinkedIn as well. I love engaging with my customers. And matter of fact, I had 3 or 4 today where we're just on the phone talking through the different products that work for them. Then we started talking about other things. And so please don't ever hesitate to reach out.
Well, thank you so much, Jody, for creating this, and your sister too. And it's giving us an option. I want to try it. I mean, I'm always willing to try new things. So, and it sounds amazing. So definitely check it out. Her website's greengoo.com. And thanks, Jody, for being on the show.
Thank you for spending time together. It was a real treat.